Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Marvel Champions video. It's been a while since I've done an unboxing video with the various, shipping delays and stuff like that. So I do finally have to open and finally play the Mad Titan Shadow campaign expansion for Marvel Champions. This, I believe, just came out last week. Finally got it today. Was supposed to come out back in August, and then the release date was pushed into October, and then into November. A bunch of other stuff, like the hood, I think, got delayed as well. And I think I'm reading reports that War Machine is supposed to be coming out possibly next week. If it does come out next week, I'll grab it. But I finally have the Mad Titan Shadow here, ready to open and ready to play. It includes 2 new heroes, so we have both Spectrum and Adam Warlock, and at least 5 new scenarios featuring Thanos, Ebony Maw, Corvus Glaive, and Proxima Midnight. I also think there's, from what I remember, there's like a Loki and Hela scenarios as well. So again, this is another campaign box, much like Rise of Red Skull and Galaxy's Most Wanted. Still haven't finished Galaxy's Most Wanted. I've heard this one is actually supposed to be a little bit on the easier side. This is supposed to be more kind of between the difficulty of Red Skull and Galaxy's Most Wanted. This is kind of supposed to be in the middle from what I've read. Like Rise of Red Skull, fairly easy, especially if you kind of like power game for it with certain decks. But Galaxy's Most Wanted I found to be very difficult. The first scenario was fairly easy, but then the collector scenario was just very difficult, and never even did the scenarios for Nebula or I think it was Ronan the Accuser. Never even actually finished the scenario for the collector, because that one solo is, to me, is very difficult, because you're when stuff gets defeated, your characters get defeated, your allies I should say, they go to the collection, then you have to do certain things to get them out of the collection, and it's just a pretty brutal campaign or scenario pack. And then I remember reading Nebula and Ronan just being very difficult. So I'm looking forward to trying this one out here. So on the cover we have Thanos. I'm not sure. That's forget that character's name. That's one of the, I think, Thanos' minions. We have Proxima Midnight there. There is Ebony Maw. And then we have, I'm not sure who this is, because I think that's definitely Proxima Midnight. Ebony Maw. I'm not sure who that is, because like on the, that's not Corvus Glaive, because it's looks like a female character. But again, at least 4 new scenarios and 2 new characters. So we're going to go ahead and get this open, and we're going to look at some of the contents, and then I'm going to turn the camera off, probably play one of the scenarios. I'm really excited to try the Thanos scenario just to see how the kind of the snap mechanic works, because there's one of his schemes. If he completes it, you basically take half of your deck and you basically dust half your deck. It gets basically removed from the game entirely. Not just discarded, but completely exiled, basically, and you can't use that half of the deck, I believe, until you beat the scenario. And I'm not sure how that works in the campaign, if you then just have to play the rest of the campaign with half a deck. But we got our box open here. Here is just some packaging material we can get rid of. Here's our rulebook and kind of the campaign guide. So we have player 2's identity, remaining hit points, tower defense, and here's the campaign log on the back. So the campaign log looks like there's some new rules. There's the amplify icon. I think we've seen that before. That is basically, I think the amplify icon increases the number of boost icons on boost cards when a boost card is turned face up during an enemy activation. Add 1 additional boost icon to the card for each amplify. Okay, amplify's been a thing before. The set symbol, we have the Infinity Gauntlet as our set symbol. So we have the starter decks are Spectrum Leadership, and Adam Warlock is all 4, because Adam Warlock basically can pull a single card from each aspect, I believe. So we have those identity cards, and then the villains are, let's see, yeah, so just listed right here, the villains are Ebony Maw, Loki, Proxima Midnight, Hela, and Thanos. I believe Ebony Maw and Proxima Midnight are in the second scenario, where they basically fight as a team. So campaign mode rules, and basically here's the setup. So it looks like basically Thanos is starting stuff off there, and it's going to continue on from there. And I believe the campaign actually ends. If you don't want spoilers for the campaign, skip ahead a few seconds. But I believe the campaign ends with Loki, actually, not Thanos. Which is kind of cool, because you would think with a Thanos expansion, it would be basically all about Thanos, but the actual, I believe, Loki then rolls up. On them. And then you also got Hela as well. So Hela Scenario 4, and is Loki Scenario 5, I think? Or is Hela the final? Yeah, Loki's the final scenario. And from what I remember reading about the Loki scenario once it was kind of fully revealed, was that you had to defeat multiple versions of Loki. So that's going to be really cool. And we actually finally have Loki as a proper villain now, too. Because I think up to now, he was only the nemesis in Thor's deck. So here's some of our villain cards. There's Ebony Maw. We have, what's this, Legions of Hell, which is a side scheme for Hela, I believe. And we have our 2 hero decks. We have Spectrum and Adam Warlock. And another pack here. This is a side scheme pack. So I'm going to probably open this up. Probably do the Ebony Maw scenario. So Ebony Maw, basically, force interrupt when Ebony Maw activates against you. Remove an invocation counter from each spell card in your play area. So I think what happens is there's these invocation counters on spells, and once all those counters come off, the spells activate, I think. But I'm probably going to play against Ebony Maw. Probably not going to do the campaign just yet. Probably just going to try some of the scenarios just to kind of gauge difficulty, and then I can play the campaign after that. But I'm probably going to start with Ebony Maw, and then probably going to use my Captain America deck. Possibly Quicksilver, but those are my 2 best decks currently, are Captain America and Quicksilver. So Captain America Protection and Quicksilver Aggression currently. But yeah, Captain America is basically the classic stun lock build, where you basically just stun the villain constantly and make it so he can't activate. The Quicksilver one is just aggression to increase his attack, and then his cards allow him to attack multiple times. Cards that just do damage based on what your attack is, so you basically just buff his attack. There's a card that basically just says deal damage to something equal to your attack, that kind of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and get Ebony Maw sleeved up. I'm going to play a quick game of him. I'm going to come back, let you know how it went, and then I'll just kind of discuss how I feel about the set, how the game played, and so on. So, been looking forward to this expansion for a while, ever since it was announced, and now that it's finally released after multiple delays. It's been like 2 months, delayed 2 months, I think. It did come out in England or Europe first. I think it came out there on time, and I know a lot of people were basically importing it from UK based stores. I decided not to do that just because you're paying whatever, if there's any import taxes, you're paying that. Don't know if there's import, but the shipping costs would be kind of high as well. So just decided to wait, picked it up, and now we're here. So I'm gonna play against Ebony Maw. Gonna turn the camera off. Gonna come back and let you know how I thought of it, what I thought of playing against him. We'll be right back with that. Alright, and we are back after the first game of the Mad Titan Shadow expansion. I just did a basic scenario, didn't do any of the campaign modifications or anything like that. So I played against Ebony Maw. I was using Captain America as kind of one of my go-to decks currently. And I ended up winning, but it ended up being a really fun game. I think out of the 3 campaign boxes so far, between Red Skull, Galaxy's Most Wanted, and Mad Titan Shadow, I think Ebony Maw is probably the most fun first encounter. So his main ability or main mechanic is the spell environment cards. So these come into play with a certain number of counters on them. They're called invocation counters. And when all the counters are removed from one of his spell effects, the effect triggers. So the effect I had one that confused me when it went off. That one wasn't so bad, because basically I could use Captain America, thwart with him, get rid of the confusion, and then just discard a card to ready him with his ability. But there's some where it'll do additional damage. Some will, I think I had one that was, when it goes off, it does 4 damage and stuff, so I think that was Fireball. There was another one, I think it was when it goes off, it brings a minion into play, and so on. But those are really interesting. And since my Captain America is a Stunlock deck, and even in the player's guide it says, basically Ebony Maw has to actually activate for the counters to come off of those environments. So if he's stunned, and he goes to activate, the activation doesn't fully complete, you get rid of the status effect, and then that's the end of the activation, basically. So with Captain America, I was able to kind of prevent a lot of those from going off just by stunning the villain. They do, some of them, like some of the more, like ones that have a higher, more damaging effect will have higher number of counters, so it'll take longer to trigger, but like I think Fireball does like 4 damage once it triggers. But beginning of the game with Ebony Maw, you reveal cards from the top of the encounter deck until you get to one of those spell environments, and then it comes into play. I was able to get rid of a bunch of really bad cards that way, though. So I got rid of my obligation, because I ended up discarding my obligation looking for the first spell environment. I ended up discarding like Shadows of the Past and a few other really bad cards. So I had a pretty good, basically thinned out the encounter deck quite a bit and got rid of a lot of the more damaging kind of cards. But Ebony Maw, basically, like his scheme is 1 or 2, his attack is 1, and I think he goes up to 2 and 2 when you get him into the second stage. But he was a really fun encounter. I ended up, like I said, kind of staving off some of those spells from going off by just stunning him and using like Heroic Strike and Tackle and things like that. And I got a really good opening hand as well. Like I got Super Soldier Serum right away, so I was able to get that out because Super Soldier Serum in Captain America's deck is kind of, it generates a physical resource or a fighting resource, whatever you want to call them. And a lot of those stunning cards are dependent on you using that resource type. So like Tackle says, like I think Tackle is stun the enemy and then it do additional 3 damage if you paid for it with that type of resource. Heroic Strike it does 6 damage to the villain and then stuns them as well. I was able to prevent quite a bit of damage with like Shield Block. I had I forget what it's called, but it comes in with 3 reflection counters, and basically you can exhaust that support and remove reflection counters to block damage. So Ebony Maw is a lot of fun to play against. I wonder how it would have went had I discarded a spell environment sooner. Like I discarded at least probably like 10 cards getting to that first spell environment. So like I said, and I also ended up just thinning the deck out quite a bit. But Ebony Maw seems fairly easy. I'm probably going to try to play against Corvus Glaive, and Proxima Midnight, see how they go. That one looks really interesting because it is 2 villains. The active villain basically changes during the phase. So like the villain will be, the active villain might be Proxima Midnight, and then in the next part it might be Corvus Glaive. I think you can target them independently, but also you basically can't win the scenario until basically both of them are defeated. So if you defeat Corvus Glaive, you still have Proxima Midnight to deal with, and then you only win as a hero by defeating both of them. And then I think you move into Thanos from there, and then Hela and Loki after that. So it definitely feels, I'm not going to say it's better than Galaxy's Most Wanted, but it definitely feels like it's not as difficult. The first encounter in Galaxy's Most Wanted wasn't super difficult, but it felt like it was more challenging than Ebony Maw. But because, like I said, I got turned off of Galaxy's Most Wanted just because of the kind of very high difficulty on even some of the earlier scenarios are very difficult. This one seems like it's kind of like right on par, a little bit easier than Crossbones, but not as hard as I think it's draining as the first encounter in Galaxy's Most Wanted. But I'm definitely going to go back, going to play through probably just some of the scenarios, maybe independently, and then maybe do the campaign after that as well. Because if you do the campaign, there are a few other cards you need to include in the villain deck, like some like additional schemes and so on. But so far, Mad Titan Shadow, definitely worth the wait. Feels like a very fun expansion. If you're into Marvel Champions, I would definitely recommend picking it up. Most of you probably already have it, as it's been out at least here for probably about a week now, a little more than a week. And then of course, if you imported it from overseas, you've been playing it for probably a couple months. But that's going to do for this video. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll be back again with more Marvel Champions videos very soon. Like I said earlier, I believe War Machine, there's rumors that War Machine is supposed to come out next week. So I'll probably be doing a video for that. And he looks really interesting as well. So stay tuned for that. Until then, thanks again for watching, and take care. Have a good one.